Hello, everybody. I am Portia Sabin, the president of the Music Business Association, and I am so excited to have with me today as my guest, my good friend, Jacqui Louez Schoorl, who is the CEO and founder of Jaxsta. She is someone that I met many years ago. Jaxsta started as an idea and has come to fruition in an amazing way to be sort of the premier source of credits on the internet. So, Jacqui, please join us.
Hello, my friend. Good morning.
Hello.
It's early. Is it early evening or afternoon?
It's afternoon here in Nashville, but I know it's morning there in Australia.
It's morning here. So good morning from the future because it's
from
Tuesday.
Yay. I love it. That's so cool. So I'm so happy to see you. And I thought we should just get started. I think you and I met probably like 9 years ago or something. We met
at the very least 8, maybe 9 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, like 8 years ago. Exactly. And it was at A2IM.
Yes.
In Austin at South by Southwest.
Yes.
And you told me that you were going to create this company, Jaxsta, and I said, I think that sounds amazing. And now look at where you guys are. So
now it's a real thing. It's a real tangible thing. It's gone from an idea to a resource that a lot of people are using daily, which is, mind-blowing.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you just start us off? Tell us what was the original impetus? How did you get the idea in the first place?
Yeah, look, I started volunteering in television and film when I was really, really young because we don't have the tentpole film industry that you have in America and in other nations like the United Kingdom and India with Bollywood, where you've just got, major tentpole films, rolling one after another. So I'd work on film productions and, sizable films, so tentpole films, and then there'd be no work for very long periods of time. So in that period, I would do a lot of music videos, and that ended up moving me into a position where I got offered a job at EMI in 2006. And when I made the transition, I was used to using IMDb every day as a resource to find out, who was the director of photography or who was the head of makeup or, who had been the costume designer on that production, because you were looking to, collate your crew for your next film shoot. And when I transitioned in 2006, I couldn't find an official resource of credits for the music industry that existed in what I was used to using with IMDb. So the kernel of the idea was planted in 2006. Fast forward to 2013, my beloved father had Alzheimer's, and my husband and I decided that, it was time for me to spend an important amount of time with my dad before he passed away. So I started to I wasn't really managing him, but I was definitely managing his recording studio and all the admin for it. We kept having all these conversations with these amazing songwriters and fellow producers that Louis knew and artists, and everybody had an issue with the lack of credits and the lack of correct credits, and their managers had issues with it and their labels had issues with it. So come 2013, we were in the right space at the right time for me to kind of work on it. And we thought, I'll put, 4 months towards it and see what kind of traction we get. And then 4 months extended by another 4, which extended by another 4. And then 2.5 years later, we'd bootstrapped, the beginnings of it, got our first investment. And then from there, we started the very serious conversations with our major partners, the major labels, Merlin, our independent partners, publishers, distributors, the Recording Academy, RIAA, and the construction of the site commenced, which was a gargantuan undertaking. I obviously did not build the site. We have an incredible team. So it's due to some really amazing people that it's in existence and that it continues to grow and evolve. But it's been a journey. It's taken over 8 years.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I laugh when I say that because sometimes it still feels like it's been 2, but it's been 8 years.
Well, and, I think it's interesting what you're saying because, it was 8 years ago, but it really dovetails with the growth that we've seen in the industry because ever since, 2013 and starting a little bit before then, I would say in 2011 when Spotify came to America, credits matter more now than ever before because it is how people are getting paid. When the industry was physical, let's say you had a writing credit on an album, that was sort of a whole other thing because an album was a sale, right? It was across the counter. It was a physical item. Yes. The money went to the distributor, then to the record label, then down to the artists, and it was sort of a different transaction system. Now we're talking microtransactions that happen in the millions, hundreds of millions, and from multiple sources all over the place. So, I mean, really now tracking who played what on what and in what proportion or percentage is critical.
It's absolutely critical because the data is driving decisions. And in the music industry and in most industries we call it metadata, but if you really break it down, it's music credits. And just on a human level, on a heart level, if people are working on the creation of a piece of music or an album or an EP, they've put their creative talent into it. They need and they deserve their credit. Also, too, it's their way of saying to their peers and their family and their friends, "Hey, look at what I worked on. Look what I was a part of." So, just on a heart human level, your credits really matter. But on a future gig level, it's your CV. If you don't have your credit, you don't have a CV, and very few of us get hired without somebody seeing your track record of what you've done. I think about starting in the film industry. There's no way I would have made it all the way up to producer if I hadn't started as an office assistant, receptionist, production runner, and then production coordinator, production, etc. You have to go through the tiers and the experience. So it's how you get your next job, but then it is how you get paid. It is a very important piece of information that tracks your contribution to a release, whether that's neighboring rights, it's mechanical royalties, and also too, it's often how you can join different industry associations and also how you can validate your contribution to a release that could help you get Grammy nominated for something. So your credits really matter. And I'm often saying to, creatives, if you're going to take the time to create a piece of music, take the 5 minutes at the end of the session to capture who was in the room and who did what, who played what, because it's important to them, it's important to you, and the long tail of it is everlasting. The neighbouring rights go on. They reset every year. There could be $700 in there. There could be $400,000 in there waiting for you. You just don't know.
Yeah.
Really matters.
Yeah. And, thinking long-term as well, I mean, there's so many reasons that artists don't record credits immediately at the source, right? But the problem is we all have the same issue, which is we all think, "Oh, I'll remember." And then those of us who are, no longer 25.
That's why I'm laughing.
I can't even remember what I had for breakfast, if I didn't write it down. So there's the idea that you're going to remember. And even now, I always think about the album that I recorded in 2000. And I know I recorded it in 2000 because I have the album and I can look and see.
Right.
But if you ask me the name of the studio or the guy who engineered it, no, I mean, it's just gone. It's empty in there.
And it's true. You think you're going to remember it because, excuse me, at the time that you're recording, you are in the zone and there's this incredible camaraderie in the studio and with everybody that's involved in the project. So you don't possibly think that you could forget somebody's name or their contribution. But it happens when natural life moves on. The next big thing happens and you've got, the next thing that you're working on, releasing, recording, and it does get forgotten, which is why it's really important it gets captured at creation. And it's exciting to see, companies like Viva Collect who are out there creating really brilliant systems where producers can input that information at the moment of creation. So we need more of that. And, I do think that there's an education process involved too, that whether you're a songwriter, you're an artist, you're a session musician, it's just making sure that you're asking that question, like, mate, just checking that, because we call everyone mate. Well, most Aussies call everybody mate in Australia, male or female. It's not a gender. It's gender neutral terminology. But your mate. Just checking my credits going on there. You got the correct spelling of my name. And the next iteration of the industry that I'm really excited about are these special identifiers that are coming out called ISNIs, and they're basically a metadata DNA code for every single person that works creatively in the industry. And that identifier will follow that individual through their entire career, through every pseudonym, and through every iteration of their career. So if they're a songwriter, an author, if they're an actor, if they end up, in a reality television show, whatever it may be, that ISNI will follow them and therefore ensure that they're trackable for, claims and royalties. So I'm very excited for the ISNIs to get traction. It's going to be a great thing for the mechanicals of the industry, for those of us that are in metadata, to be able to track a person's journey in their career.
Yeah.
It'd be so good.
That's really exciting. So tell us a little bit about how you sourced your data to put together Jaxsta.
Yeah, so it was quite a process because for those of you who might not be aware, we're based in Sydney, Australia, so really very much on the other side of the world. And it involved a lot of flying when that was something that we did regularly. So really for 6 years, but particularly not obviously last year, but from sort of 2016 to 2019, I was doing upwards of about 40 flights a year. Now, not all of those were long haul, but I would often fly to America, fly to LA, and then maybe go to New York or go to San Francisco or go to Nashville. So a lot of face-to-face meetings. And on average, each considerable partnership took about 3.5 years to negotiate, which involved some closed industry betas. We did 2 of those before we launched our public beta in June. I have to see. I'm having an issue remembering. In June of 2019, we launched Jaxsta.com, and then later that year we launched Jaxsta Pro, which is our tool for industry professionals. And it was a long process to get to a space where we had built that trust with our partners, that they knew that our mission was the right mission, that we were aligned with the industry, and that we were doing this for the right purposes. Because obviously, there are a lot of people with great ideas out there, and it takes a lot of work to get them up. It takes a phenomenal amount of funding. I mean, our investors have been extraordinary. But you also have to prove that there's a very valid need for it, and that its existence is going to help improve the ecosystem overall of the industry. So many conversations, and I think about when I first met with the Recording Academy, they used to have these photos on the car spaces of the Grammy icon, and I took my phone out and I took a photo of it. I didn't post it because that wasn't appropriate, but I remember that photo and taking it and just thinking, my gosh, imagine if we could partner with the Recording Academy. And I think it was 3 years, 5 months, 2 days to our first meeting when we actually signed our partnership. And we had done 16 face-to-face meetings, and there was something like 2,500 emails that had gone back and forth in total. Because I love data, obviously. I love to be able to track what it takes to get to where you need to go. And that was such a defining moment. I'll never forget receiving that contract. I was in our office in Sydney, and I let out this squeal and then immediately burst into tears because it was just such a big moment.
Yeah, and you'd worked so hard. I mean, you have the data to prove exactly how hard you worked.
The whole team had worked. So it was a team effort. Yeah, I certainly didn't achieve that one solo, but it takes a lot, and it takes a lot of persistence. And some days it's been easier than others to keep going and believe the mission. And now that the product's live every day, it's just exciting because we hear the most extraordinary stories of people and how their credits have benefited them. When the pandemic first really was very real for all of us, which was early March last year, we'd been hearing about it in Australia since kind of November the year before, but it wasn't in Australia. So it was close and everyone was keeping an eye on it. But by March, the world was obviously very aware. And we thought, okay, what do we do? How do we help the industry? What's something that we can do to keep us going, but also to help the industry? So Jaxsta Pro moved from being a paid subscription to free. And we sent out an email saying, look, now's a good time to do your admin, to claim your profile, check your credits, make sure everything's there. And then if things are incorrect, let us know. And one of your Music Biz members, Portia, took that email to heart and went in and checked the credits of the repertoire that individual managed, and discovered that there were tracks that had been released that they hadn't been collecting royalties for, and they ended up securing thousands of dollars, which is just
awesome.
It's incredible. It's so wonderful to know that it's helping.
Yes, absolutely.
And it was because they could send their Jaxsta URL, and the royalty agency could see, oh yes, okay, this is a real recording. This is where the data has come from. Right, let's chase that for you.
Exactly.
It's fantastic.
That's fantastic. I love that. And I think there's stories like that every day, where people are making money because they are checking out their profiles on Jaxsta. We had an event not that long ago, a couple of weeks ago, where we had a singer-songwriter do the keynote, and his entire keynote was about how he has been spending a lot of time lately going through all of his credits to make sure that he is getting properly paid from all the different sources that he's connected to. And, so there, all of this, and then his advice, of course, was to artists, young and old, everybody, pay attention, right? Go back and go through it and really know your stuff, because it's the difference. I mean, he said it's the difference between, thousands of dollars and tens of thousands of dollars.
Yes,
and if you don't know what's out there, you don't know what has your name on it, or what's missing your name, for example.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I'm really excited about. What we do is, when you're on our site, on the right-hand side, there's a feedback button. It's never going away. It'll be there forever. And it's so, if you're on a page and you're like, hang on, that's not my name, or that's the wrong credit, you actually can log a ticket with us, and a real human being, not a bot, our customer service team actually get in touch with you and go, okay, right, so this is the credit that you're saying is correct, and this is the correct spelling of your name. And then we go back and forth with the individual to get what we need to be able to prove to the distributor, and this is what the credit needs to say. And then we send that information back, because at the end of the day, all of our data partners want their data to be accurate and correct as much as humanly possible. So they're really grateful for the ability to be able to correct the data. And here's the cool thing. Once it's fixed at their end, it's fixed for perpetuity in the DDEX ERN feed, which sounds like another language I appreciate. So that's the metadata standard for electronic recorded notification is what it stands for. But in the metadata world, that's how our computers speak to each other to translate the metadata, which are really the music credits. So it's really exciting to think that now there's a portal where you as an industry professional can go in and actually fix your credit and get it amended. Now, sometimes there are obviously always outliers and reasons why some credits can't get fixed, but 98% of the time, us and our partners are having these tremendous wins where the information is being fixed and corrected, which is really important and really exciting.
It is. And, the other thing I think needs to be stressed is this isn't a gotcha situation. There's human error everywhere. And at some level, we have to be kind to each other. I guarantee your record label is not trying to keep money away from you by having your credits wrong. Your distributor is not trying. These are all people who have a share in the well-being of their artists. Nobody wants you to be doing poorly. So if they're, but people make mistakes there. And I mean, anyone who's ever looked at a radio report, for example, sees, the things spelled in crazy ways, with letters missing and whole words missing. And so human error exists. So we have to, this is another reason why we have to take this seriously, and artists and teams and labels and distributors, everybody has to check this data carefully, because human error is everywhere, but it's not on purpose.
It's definitely not on purpose. And, I think the thing is too, we haven't exactly made it easy on ourselves as an industry.
No.
I came from film and television. It's pretty bloody straightforward. The music industry is so complex.
It
I
is.
can't tell you the number of times I've watched videos on YouTube explaining mechanical rights, or back in the day, neighbouring rights. And it wasn't like I watched them once and I got it.
No.
I had to watch them several times, and then I'd have conversations with my husband, and I'd have conversations with his managers and conversations with, people in the industry going, okay, I believe I understand it. And then I would say it back to them and go, yes. And then there'd always be a but. And then I'd be like, oh God, the wheels are about to come off the bus. What have I missed? It's a very complex industry. We haven't made it easy. It's not streamlined.
Yeah.
And I think about what it must be like for new creatives coming into the industry, let alone people who are coming into the music industry to work behind the scenes. We have our own language. We have our own acronym soup of ways that we speak, whether you're in the creative A&R industry, artist and repertoire, or you work in metadata. I mean, we have our own moon language over here. And how are you supposed to understand all of it? How daunting must it be when you come in for the first time and someone says to you, have you registered with a PRO? Do you have your membership number? Do you have an ISNI? Do you know what your IPI is? What? Sorry. Have you registered for neighbouring rights? What are neighbouring rights?
Exactly.
What's happening with your mechanical rights? Sorry? Like it's not as though you walk into the industry and we're going to hand you this, 101 Bible of how to get from A to Z of the industry. Although that's something Jaxsta's working on. But, we've got a glossary. We've started a glossary just as a simple way. And I know that Music Biz has the most phenomenal resources. So, thank goodness for Music Biz. It's just very overwhelming. And hence, it's odd I think sometimes for people to connect the dots and think, oh, it starts at my credit. Yeah, it really does.
Absolutely.
It starts right there. The moment that you are in a recording session, whether it's via Zoom, it's in your bedroom, wherever it may be, you are at that moment creating your credit, which is also metadata. And it's really important.
Yes. It's, I always say that the history of music business is a patchwork of historical accidents.
That's right.
And that's really where we're at, especially with regard to the rights. Rights are just bananas. And as you were saying, from the minute you record something in your bedroom or wherever, but the truth is the moment you put pen to paper and you write a song, you have rights. Yeah. So, this is just a crazy, crazy industry. And yet all of these rights lead to money. And one of the things that we've been seeing so much in this moment in history is, someone who wrote a song and put it out 20 years ago and is going about their business today, either as an artist or not. And then some kid puts that song on TikTok, and overnight that song blows up. It gets picked up by all the algorithms of all the other streaming services. And boom, you've got a hit 20 years later or 10 years later or 5 years later or 5 minutes later, whatever. And that generates money.
Yes.
And if you are not set up from 20 years ago or 5 years ago or 5 minutes ago to receive that money, you must do that. That is important because that's money that you're not going to receive. And it's real.
It is. And, you think about, your admin, whatever your weekly or monthly budget may be, or just preparing for your tax. This is as important as doing your tax return. It might even be more important because it's actually going to help your tax return because you could be generating more revenue that you don't know about. Having a conversation once with Mike Hubby, and we were talking, and he said, the best part of this job is when our team gets to call people and let them know that we have a check for them for, $700, $2,000, whatever it may be. And you hear their stories of, oh my God, thank you so much. I can pay my child's school fees this month, or whatever it may be. None of us are going to snooze at being unknown money magnets. And there's 2.6 or $2.4 billion in the black box right now of unattributed funds that the DSPs and other services want to pay, but they actually don't know who or where to pay the money.
Yeah.
$2.6 billion.
Yeah.
Hello, it's not going anywhere. That money's sitting there, and it needs to, there could be a piece of it for people, watching and listening today, or when they do watch this. So your credits are so important. They're so important. They are your DNA code in the industry, and they last with you forever. So it's important to fight for, and it's important to make sure that they're accurate and correct, and you do have the ability to get them fixed if they're not accurate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, talking to you is takes 2 seconds because I love talking to you. It's so
You
easy.
too, my friend.
we have, I think, gotten to our time here. So we're going to pop over to the Jaxsta Lounge, which is very exciting. And we invite, if anyone has any questions for Jacqui or just like to say hi, we're going to pop over to the Jaxsta Lounge. So if anyone wants to join us, that'd be great. And if you're watching this later on video, you cannot come over and join us, but you can go to the Jaxsta Lounge and visit with each other. It's a great place for networking. And before we close, I'll just tell one quick story. So my husband runs a record label, and he was at one of our Music Biz events online the other day, and he went into the Jaxsta Lounge, and in the first 30 seconds was nabbed by somebody from Jaxsta and involved in a conversation. And that person pointed out that several of his recent releases had not been added to Jaxsta. And he has fixed that now. And see, there you go. Now that's going to generate X number of dollars in the future. And if he had not gone to the Jaxsta Lounge and not talked to somebody from Jaxsta, he would never have known. So
yeah, that was the best story. When Sean told me that, when he shared it with the whole company, actually, we were just like, yay!
Isn't that great? And this is a guy who's been running a record label for 30 years. It's not
exactly
he is doing something wrong or
Slim knows what he's doing.
Exactly. It's things slip through the cracks. Things slip through the cracks. Human error is real. So it's wonderful that we can all be together and supporting each other, and that Jaxsta is at the center supporting everybody in the industry. So we love
exciting. Oh, we wouldn't be here without support, Portia. I mean, that meeting we first had, and then all of the subsequent meetings that we had. I remember you and I having a meeting in Austin, Texas, and that's at South by Southwest, and that's when you told me that Kill Rock Stars was going to become a data partner. And Dick and I were very excited, and we didn't act cool, but we were excited. And then we walked outside, and we were like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah.
And it was amazing, because then every other meeting that we went to, we could say that we had Portia and Slim's support, and that we were doing this. And it's all of those micro moments that led us to where we are now, and why we've got more partners joining. So can't thank you enough. Every drop of water adds to the waterfall, and it's really important.
Excellent. And it's what you guys have created is really going to help the industry. So, I mean, it is currently helping the industry. So it's wonderful.
Good news.
All right, everybody, we're going to click over to the Jaxsta Lounge, and we'll see you there.
Fabulous.
Thank you.